Pomona, baby.
Pomona, man.
Pomona, man.
It's a dope. You never been to Pomona, huh? Have you even been to that campus?
I don't even think I've ever
amazing.
been to Pomona. I'm never in this rancho. I mean, this area is so far out from me.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
You'll love it. I'd walk away from everything tomorrow just to go pastor the Pomona campus.
Oh, yeah. It's a great community.
It's a great community. It's, you know, the size is great.
Yeah,
size of the sanctuary is great. Our courtyard we made over there is amazing. There, you know, Pastor Steve, who's the campus pastor over there, he just told me he's like, we're getting at a place where he said, as many people are coming or as that many people are staying after service. Like, he's like, I literally have to beg people, like, we got to go, you know, or it bleeds into the next service. Yeah, yeah. Which is dope. Like
how long has the Pomona campus been?
5 years.
Oh, it's a good.
So they did 5 years, started in, I think we dropped, Aaron would know, he was the first campus pastor, but all of it kind of blurs because when I'm planning phase, dropping phase, you know, he knows more of the dynamics. But I think it was 2019 is when we officially launched. Then it was open for a year and a half. COVID. And they did a junior high. And this junior high had no heating, no air conditioning. Yeah. So we bring in all these huge coolers and fans and, you know, stuff like that. And we talked about this before, but, you know, offline, not on the podcast. But what a lot of people don't talk about, because when you talk with like a lot of church planning networks, they're like, find a theater, find a community center. That's how you should plant your church. But when you go into a low income area, which that's what Pomona is, there's no nice high school, junior high, community center or whatever. So the junior high we were at, I mean, they were, the school loved us and they were generous with the space. But I mean, it was in rough shape. And the fact that people came every week was like a miracle. And then COVID, we picked up an old Salvation Army. And which was really nice.
You renovated it.
Yeah, we renovated it.
Even our theater right now, where our kids meet, there's no AC. So we get like ice coolers, create these like fans coming out the ice cooler.
At a movie theater?
Upstairs in the balcony area. Oh. And the movie theater is so old, and they haven't renovated it for years. So a lot of the AC units in the different parts of the theaters either not working or super weak. So our auditorium works.
So just buy the movie theater, Will.
Patreon want to help with that? Bro, it would be a dream, dude. The mall that we're meeting at, it's dying. There's there's no. I've seen like 3 restaurants in the last year come in and they're gone within like 6 months. Yeah. And there's open spaces everywhere. So we're this close of signing a contract for the space, right? Like maybe like 50 feet from the theater to rent out for the next gen kids.
Who owns the movie theater?
The mall is owned by this Korean American man.
Oh, so the Korean American owns the theater?
He owns the whole mall, like 150,000 feet worth of real estate.
Buy the movie theater.
Let's do it. Andrea's been saying every month, Andrea's like, I want this theater so bad. And then I was talking to Pastor Bayless this Sunday as we were walking out. I was like, yeah, you know, like, I found out who the owner of the property is, and I kept saying things that aren't, and he kept saying, not yet. Not yet. I was like, all right. I got to get around some crazy people who've seen stuff I haven't seen. And it's like normal for you guys. It's like, it's normal. Right. It's normal for like you to be like, y'all can buy that. Or like Pastor Bayless is like, someone's going to buy that for you. Yeah. For me, I'm like, nah. But when I'm around. I
send you like Crexy properties and you'll be like, stop
Adam be sending me all these empty properties like once a month. I'm like, Adam, I don't got $20 million, my dog.
I'm like, no, this one's 9. This one's 9.
Yeah, not either. Bro. I don't even got 1. You know what I mean? There's zeros to this, you know? I was even talking to Andrews over here. We were driving over here. Yeah. And he was telling me how it's so important to get around peers or leaders who are like years ahead of you. Because it's just like your eyes go up. You see beyond what you're seeing now. Yeah. So hopefully, man, I mean, that's the dream. That theater,
I get it.
It works well for us.
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah. We're doing a Corona campus, but we were trying to originally do it in the mall. And one
Aaron called me. We talked about it.
Yeah. And we might do it at a theater there. But one of the things we were talking about with them was like getting a permanent placement there. And their biggest thing was like, They said there's like a thing in the industry that the moment you allow churches to come, you admit the mall's dying. They say only malls that have churches in them are malls that just desperately need money to fill in voids, and they say it's a mall killer.
Oh, interesting.
And so for them, they were like, hey, how about we have you, but like, can you have distinct signage that doesn't make you look like a church?
Sure.
And thankfully, we had just rebranded.
Patria.
So we kind of pitched them like, hey, this is what Patria is. We could actually make it, a storefront coffee shop with we could do all these things, which they were totally open to, but you could tell they were really nervous about, because they're like climbing, and the mall's doing really well right now. And they believe, like, as Christian men or people who self-identify as Christian, I don't know what their actual like worship looks like, but as Christian men, they're like, man, I want a church in this area.
Yeah.
We want you guys in the area, but we also are businessmen.
Yeah.
And we also can't kill our mall by letting you guys in. Not everyone likes churches in their mall. So it was just an interesting dynamic that I hadn't really no one had ever told me that before.
But I'll tell you this, if they've never experienced having a church in there, they're going to love you guys, because the foot traffic on Sundays is not as strong, especially in the mornings. Yeah. Once we arrived, I mean, all the businesses there got business. Yeah. Because we have like 400 or 500 people after service looking where to eat, where to go. There's excitement, there's energy. Yeah. So I could see, but that's interesting. That makes sense that there is a common language there.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't know that.
Me too. First time hearing that.
They're like, we need to keep it honest with you. We don't want our mall to die. We were like, what? Your mall's not going to die. You'll be all right.
That's so funny. I used to tell Andrea like a couple years ago, even like I used to get invited to speak at like a lot of the large Christian organizations, and I used to always tell her, I always get invited once they're starting to like decline. It's when they were booming, I was never invited, but once like things are going down, so now I'm like, whenever I'm invited to speak somewhere, I'm like, maybe they're struggling. They're like, we got to bring someone else at a B tier level or C tier.
We can't get 18 people no more. So we got to get B.
I'll take it.
It's okay.
I'll take it.
It's okay to be on that league.
Bro.
That's exactly how it is. That's exactly how it is. Yeah. Oh man.
And you guys had a crazy day yesterday, huh? The conference at Nancy was telling me like a pre-conference for the volunteers.
Pre-conference rally.
Yeah, Ashley was breaking it down.
So it was amazing. It did great, man. The energy was there. Like 500 people on our team there.
And those are all the volunteers.
Yeah, from kids to everything. And so it was a lot of fun. It was the first time doing something like that. I'm just, this episode airs, weeks after post-conference, but yeah, I'm just expecting, excited. Yeah. Whoever God will have come, it's a first for us. So I'm expecting a lot of great things is going to happen, but I'm not, I think we tend to, what I want is every person that comes that we can get, we can have connection with, and people can grow relationships, rather than, I think our overdrive or like our undercurrent is always like, I want to pack a room out.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what success is. Pack a room out. And I just was like, I gave that up a long time ago. I've been in packed rooms and I've seen people, no one leave changed, For sure. But wow, we had a blast that night. I would just rather, whatever happens is going to be a move, and it's just the Holy Spirit. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's going to be good, dude. I'm excited too. I'll be there tomorrow, be there maybe Saturday and Sunday. So it's going to be good.
It's going to be fun. Yeah. Pumped. Other churches are coming, driving from other areas. So
I saw Fuego's bringing his whole crew.
Yeah, they just got in today. So
I saw on his
all came from Oakland. like 15 of them, I think, came down, canceled their Sunday services to be at conference. So
they canceled a Sunday service.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because he didn't feel like everyone would be able to make it back in time on Sunday, and he's bringing all his main leaders. So
wow,
he told his church they're not going to have. I guess they've done it one other time this year.
Not even live streaming it. There's no like pre-recorded service for the.
No.
Just they go, hey, stream into Patriots online service.
Into Patriots church Sunday service. Yeah, so it's great. Yeah, they'll be here Sunday then too. So they'll be here all weekend, and all his leaders will be here all weekend. So that'd be awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah. Man, where did we leave? We had a part one last week, or not last week. Well, last week's episode.
Yes, sir.
Just yesterday for us.
Yeah.
Because we're getting in some. I'm speaking at a. Reason why we're doing 2 episodes back to back is because I'm speaking at my mentor's senior pastor leadership gathering next week. Okay. So that's why we're not able to do an episode. But he's like Gerald Brooks. He's an OG. But that's why we're doing 2 episodes back to back. So we did part one yesterday. Which is technically last week's episode, where we were talking about England a little bit, but then we got caught up on a tangent. I'm trying to remember what the tangent was.
With
Discipleship,
and then the part
education,
2.
MD Seminary. We have
Yeah,
an
what
MD
is
graduate
MD?
right there. He should have. He has an MD right there.
Oh, we got another MDiv student in here.
Hey,
Let's
he's
go.
on camera. Say hello.
Yeah.
You really are right there.
Yeah, there you are.
I see you. I see you right there on the TV screen right there.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, we can see you. Oh, got another. Where's your MDiv from? Talbot?
From Trinity.
Trinity.
That's one
Out in
tier
Illinois,
above.
right?
One tier above Talbot.
Yeah, that's
bro.
like where Moody.
D.A. Carson.
Oh, D.A. Carson.
Douglas Moo.
Wow,
D.A. Carson.
wow.
All the books I read.
For Trinity.
A lot of the professors' books we've read for Talbot were Trinity professors.
Is the Trinity Church there the one with the beautiful circular wooden like room that I know there's a church in Illinois that's just a gorgeous round. Maybe it's Moody's Bible Institute.
That's Moody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Trinity's
okay.
chapel's janky.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trinity's pretty OG. So like the building's really old.
But it's not
Moody's
nice.
in the city, yeah.
Oh, okay. Moody's is like gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
They got a
Okay.
lot more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a little more money.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Do you think pastors should go to seminary or not go to seminary? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Give him the headset real quick, Nancy. We're rollover from episode number, last episode.
Episode
So this is
533.
part 2.
Will
This
did
is part.
not warn me about this.
Yeah. Anybody's fair game in this.
How public is this podcast?
Depends on what you talk about.
Do you recommend
If it's controversial enough, everybody will hear it.
Do you
If it's not,
recommend
then-
an aspiring pastor that's in his 20s to go to seminary or not?
I think that's tough because I think that what I really loved about my seminary experience was just kind of being around other people who had the same heart and who had the same vocational call. But I found that sometimes with the languages, with the academics, I found out that more often than not in my school, it's really sad to say, I felt like the fire that they walked in with was stamped out because they had to get A's in their classes.
Oh, he preaching now. He's not even just talking. He said stamped out.
He been thinking about
he
this.
He said the fire that was when they got stamped out.
He said, I've been waiting for a platform to be able to talk about this.
No, and it's funny because I graduated 2018 and then 2 years later a pandemic hit the world.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I had to pastor people during a pandemic. We had to learn how to live stream. I was doing Zoom calls with people, discipling them, trying to counsel them through depression, anxiety. And I was like, there's nothing in my Greek Bible that told me how to deal with this. There's nothing in the Hebrew that says how to counsel people in a pandemic. Yeah. And so I was like, I wish I had a lot more classes that taught me how to deal with people, taught me how to love people, taught me how to deal with the brokenness in this world.
The work of the ministry, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's only like one class, like in seminary.
Introduction
like
to pastoral counseling.
Exactly. Like pastoral care or whatever. It's one class and it's like theory.
And for my MDiv, I took 12 courses of language. I'm just letting you know.
And he still don't know Greek.
He knows tongues better than he knows Greek.
He took 12 semesters, but he don't know Greek.
Yeah, my friends who graduate later, and I was already pastoring, they were like, do you still read your Greek Bible? I'm like, I haven't touched it once.
Isn't it crazy? And if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what's so
I took
frustrating.
nine semesters of Greek.
Jeez.
4 in undergrad, 5 in grad.
My goodness.
And I barely use it.
Yeah.
I check every weekend, what does this mean? But
I took 4 of Greek. I didn't do Hebrew, but I did 4 semesters of Greek. And same thing. I don't have it anymore. I'm 12 years later. I don't.
Yeah.
It'd be tough,
And I always say I'm so thankful that it was someone else's calling in life to translate this, and I have the commentaries now.
Yeah.
And and I still know how to do word studies and different things like that. But I wish that there was a greater emphasis on how to care for people.
Yeah.
And I felt like they were doing a greater job of creating professors and academics and even authors, if that's your thing, who do research. But to do practical ministry, I think there has to be more of an emphasis on how to really care for people, especially in this day and age.
For sure.
And I was thinking about this just now too, is like, I feel like, so when I think about the fivefold, the apostolic, the prophetic, the evangelist, the shepherd, the teachers, each gift is emphasized in different cultural moments, right? So for example, the Reformation was like a semi-apostolic / teaching movement, because the Reformation was a correction of false teaching.
Yeah.
And the Protestant denomination was built off the Reformation. And because it was built off the teaching gift, seminaries really focus on teaching, but they don't equip you for shepherding, apostolic, or prophetic cultural analysis.
Yeah.
Right? And so I feel like when you are in a Christian nation, seminary is helpful because everyone just wants to be taught, because they're in a culture of learning more theology. When you're in a pre-Christian nation, learning about evangelism and apostolic is influential or most helpful. And now that we're in a post-Christian nation or a post-COVID even world, it seems like that apostolic role is coming back, where there needs to be new expressions of our faith to meet the needs of this generation, right? And so a lot of the traditional forms and the institutions of Christian education, what once equipped teachers, is not as effective, because we need to now equip the different not offices, but the different gift mix of what's needed for this time. You know what I mean? So even I don't know if it was recording, you're designing merch, right? Like
Right.
And that's
And I'm a pastor. Yeah, I'm a pastor.
But that's extremely effective in reaching this generation.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It's you're doing apostolic things that have not been done before, and it's coming out of the needs of this generation, right?
Yeah.
Podcasting, social media, entertainment, merch. And so I feel like the education process, and even when you're talking about in London, right? That's why they're probably so ahead of us.
For sure.
Because they've had to reorchestrate everything to reach, like, almost now, again, you said a pre-Christian nation again. You know what I mean?
They're like what they explained where they're at in England is like, which is like a really interesting concept. Oh man, who was I talking to? I think it was Aaron. It just blew me away. I came to a point of, I love your thoughts on it. But basically what they said was, we've moved past an era now where anyone is church hurt and everyone is just unchurched.
Wow.
And because right now, you'll notice a lot of the American culture in church is we're trying to help and address church hurt.
For sure.
Trying to help process church hurt, church abuse, whether you come from Catholicism, a denominational background, a non-denominational church. You know, we see all the newspaper headlines. And, you know, one of the things one of the pastors said in England was, he said, you know, we had to get to a place where once we saw that church hurt was no longer really a thing, we had to readdress and be like, well, then how do we do church? Because every way we've been doing church is to help people address their hurt, their hang-ups, a lot of their mental health stuff. And they're like, but now, like, their mental health isn't necessarily tied to religion. It's unchurched in general. Wow. And I just think, like, because a lot of the conversations we'll have with our team, I wouldn't say it's a majority, but it's in there, is regularly like, oh, well, how do we pastor a generation who has been hurt by the church or whatever it is? But really, like, if, you know, it might be necessary for some people, but if you build your mechanics around addressing church hurt, we're what it seems like, because we're about a generation behind England in terms of you know, religious instruction. It's like we're actually really close to a post-churched people, right? Like, you just look at Gen Z right now are starting to have kids, and Gen Z aren't church hurt; they're unchurched. Millennials have church hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
Gen Z don't have necessarily church hurt, and Gen Z are already having children. And so if Gen Z are not churched at all, and then their children are going to be unchurched, it's not really a matter of dealing with their hurt. It's a matter of the beauty and the wonder of knowing Jesus in an apostolic formulation that helps people see Christ. And that's what the churches in England are doing, is they're welcoming the Holy Spirit in each kind of cultural context. Everyone has their own similarity, but in each cultural context, trying to reach their people in a very apostolic way, than rather how do we tell people that we Christians are different than what they grew up with? Like, they're just like, no one grew up with Christians. You know, 1% of the nation is Christian.
That's crazy.
Almost no one has a Christian friend.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they may say they are, but they're not. They've never been to church or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Because
different.
I didn't, I haven't put those pieces together until I'm like, actually, yeah, a lot of people I meet now are pretty unchurched. They're not too many people are coming, at least in our church, are not too, maybe 50-50,
You're right, because even for our church, the church hurt people are millennials. And then the unchurched people who are coming to our church are Gen Z, not de-church. So we have a lot, in our demographics at Beloved, most of the millennials that we're reaching are like de-churched, and they're coming back to church. And then we have a gang of like Gen Z kids, they're not even churched. Even just this past week, I was at our mall talking to the leasing office, and this kid, he runs to me and Andrea as we're leaving. He's like, hey, are you guys from Beloved Church? I was like, yeah, what's good, man? Oh, this is hilarious, part two.
Yeah. It's because you were wearing a Beloved sweater now.
I wasn't, dog. I wasn't even. This is before the merge. This is 2 weeks ago. And then we're talking, and then I find out he's like, oh, I've never been to church in my life. But one of my coworkers goes to your church, and he sent me your guys' Spotify. So I've been watching your services every Sunday. And you could tell he's completely unchurched because he was trying to use Christian language to try to connect to me. He was like, I've been really liking your gospel. That's what he said. Right? I was like, oh, wow, I could tell. And then we started talking, and I was like, hey, I was like, you should come this Sunday. He's like, oh, I don't know if I should come. Like, I feel anxious. I'm a little nervous. I don't know anybody here. I've never been to church in my life. And literally, this is what he says. Do you guys have merch at your church? I was like, actually, we're dropping our merch for our anniversary service. He's like, oh, I'll love to come and support to buy your guys' merch. So I was like, hey, why don't you come? The merch is on me. Just come. And then Sunday morning, it just so happens, as I was coming out to the bathroom, I saw the kid walk in. And I was like, yo, come over here. I gave him merch. First time in his church his entire life.
No way.
Yeah, Gen Z kid. But that's very common.
Correct.
The Gen Z kids who visit, it's like, I've been to church maybe 1 to 5 times my whole life. Or it's just my first time here, and the vibes are dope, the people are cool, and they're starting to come along.
For sure.
Different audience.
Oh yeah. We get those same type of people, and people who maybe come from church, if they don't recognize certain apostolic giftings may have different expressions, and so it's like I'll get questions every once in a while from people that are like it's so weird. Why do you guys emphasize merch? So much. Is there that much of a profit in it? And I'm like, oh, we don't, we lose money sometimes doing these things. There is the way we view it is missional and evangelism. So we've done stuff that we lost money towards, or if not, we're just barely breaking even. But for us, it's a matter of, well, number one, everybody buys clothes anyway. So why would you not want to express your faith if it looks good?
For sure.
And if the price is comparable to anywhere else, why would you not, right? So that's my first thinking. My second thinking is, why would you not in a practical way want to share your faith? It's the new gospel track. When I was growing up, it was have a fake dollar bill that you drop by someone's car, and when they pick it up, it's like, gotcha, you're going to hell. Would you like to accept Jesus?
You're spiritually bankrupt.
Yeah, exactly. It was those gospel tracks.
And not only that, I've talked about this before. And this was, when I talked about this was when Ross commented on it, right?
Yes.
But a lot of people are in the audience right now are hearing us say apostolic, prophetic, but they're only used to hearing the word pastor, right? But if you read the Greek New Testament, the word pastor is only used twice. Right? Apostle is used 100 times more than that, right? And when you read Ephesians, I think it was 4, maybe 5, I think it's 4, it says God gives to the church, apostle, prophet, teacher, evangelist, shepherd, to equip the saints with the work of ministry. But the problem is with most churches, they only have space for shepherds and teachers, and they don't know what to do with apostles, evangelists, and prophets. But I think the calling of the church is to steward the gifts of its people. And if Christians can't express their gifts within the context of a local church, they'll leave somewhere else and use their gifts. For example, you'll see a lot of, even the Black church, musicians. The church didn't know how to steward their musical gifts. So instead of singing for the church, they go outside and sing for the world, right? And so a lot of times, apostolic leaders and prophetic leaders don't have space in churches to exercise their gifts, so they leave and they use it somewhere else. But having spaces like the creatives to be able to utilize their gifts to serve God is the way that you reach this generation, right? And they even say the prophets of our generation are the comedians and the musicians.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who are setting the culture. They're interpreting culture and they're speaking the language of the culture. And if we don't have space for a local church to allow musicians, comedians, entertainers, the creatives to have a place where they could exercise their gifts, we're not going to see the full expression of what the local church can do,
Yeah.
especially in a post-Christian and even now as we're going even pre-Christian nation,
Yeah.
right? So that's why things
Yeah.
like podcasting, merch, music, dance, like
Yeah.
I already know Patriot Conference is going to have a gang of stuff. I already know you guys are going to have all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
I would reckon to say it's probably one of the most, and I didn't have much to do with it, but it's probably one of the most creative conferences I've ever been to.
already-
We don't even label it
Oh, bro, I already know it's going to be.
creative, but it's
for
between
sure.
film and other stuff. Like it's. Yeah, well, this is post, so by time we could talk about it now at this point. But what have already happened is we're doing like an interactive communion experience. The team, I don't know if you heard much about it, but basically what we did was they went to 3 locations,
I saw it on the socials.
and it's like a 15-minute video that they'll break up, but they
Yeah.
basically asked strangers who are Christians to take communion with them. And they basically broke bread at the Lord's table and they thought people were going to come and be angry that they were, and nobody was offended by it. They were ready. Like, we see all the other stuff, the abortion signs, people get, you see it on TikTok, people get cussed out, or
that's
the
crazy.
LGBTQ stuff. And so the team realized, like, okay, we're going to have these signs. We're going to invite Christians to come and take communion with people who are non-Christians. They're for sure going to come. And
That's crazy.
And no one harassed them amongst 3 locations all day. And Christians were coming and like repenting of sins and
Yeah, I saw some of that.
all this stuff like that. It was
Yeah.
crazy. But I mean, I think those are some elements of like not just being creative for creative sake, because I've been to stuff that was like, that's kind of like, well, this doesn't really worship the Lord. It's creative, but it's like you gave a creative the ability to do it with being 1 month saved. You're just like, you just told them to be creative with no theology behind it or doctrine. And so what I do think is like, if people operate in the prophetic, if people operate in the apostolic or any other evangelists, like we should put enough care and expectation as we do a pastor teacher. Like
sure.
there's certain things we
For
won't let a
sure.
pastor teacher get away with
sure.
that we let, an artist get away with
For
or
sure.
whatever. And so I do think there's kind of a loose expectation on the other things. But I also think like I'll talk to people because, every once in a while people ask us like, is the fivefold, does Patriot believe in the fivefold? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
And they'll be like, oh, well, when does the fivefold, speak or have platform time or whatever? Because I've never seen someone on stage, prophet so-and-so or apostle so-and-so. And my response is always, number one, first, my gift is apostolic.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I don't, but here's what we do, and we believe at our church, is the reformers brought pastor into a title because it made everybody equal.
Yeah.
And so there is a bit of human madeness
For
to
sure,
it
for sure.
that I believe was spirit filled.
For sure.
Where when the abuse of the Catholic Church was happening, because Catholic Church does apostolic succession. The Catholic Church has all the other mediums of bishops and cardinals and hierarchies, and the reformers recognized, hey, that has been abused. So therefore, the shepherd, as the shepherd is spirit filled and all these kind of things like that, the shepherd is a common title. We can all take a lowly position and then let our gifts kind of express. They were less charismatic, but over the years, like that's really what it's become. So I explain to people like, you're going to see people, at least on our platform, go up as pastor, but that is not in the fivefold, so to say. And so one of our pastors, and if you want to just go ask them, what gift do you operate? They'll tell you.
For sure. And there's like 2 different angles to like the NAR movement, which was called the New Apostolic Reformation. I personally don't agree with them. I don't see the fivefold as office. I see it as giftings.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like the office of a church is 1 Timothy 3, Titus 1, 1 Peter 5 as elder and deacon.
Yeah.
Those are like the offices, right? But then the giftings is expressed in the apostolic. I think that those gifts are like umbrellas that someone kind of operates in that follows that, right?
Yeah.
And so oftentimes people get mixed up when they think it's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
The apostle is really
It's big dog.
It's the
top
big dog. It's the
Yeah.
I mean, we call you bishop. We call
Yeah,
you
yeah.
apostle because,
Yeah.
we're joking.
Yeah.
But then that's the NAR. That was kind of their perspective. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is an apostle. He is like holier than the shepherd or the pastor. I don't see
Yeah.
it that way. I see it more as like he's apostolic. So like even Andrew over here at our church, he's sanctioned as our evangelist,
Mm-hmm.
right? So Andrew, this guy is clearly just an evangelist. So he does
Yeah.
all this campus stuff, high school stuff, Gen Z stuff, and it's clear that when he opens his mouth, people get saved, and people, and then the saved get revived. So he has an evangelistic gift
Yeah.
that we've sanctioned. And
So do we call him Evandrew?
All right. So like,
Have you heard that before? Yeah. Oh, there you go. See?
that's hilarious.
New name alert.
Evandrew.
Evandrew. This is Evandrew.
Yeah. So I feel like it's to me it's more the gifting, right? And I don't
Yeah.
have necessarily a problem of giving someone a title in accordance to their gift.
Yeah.
But I don't see it as necessarily as an office. You know what I
Me
mean?
too. And the reason why I lean against it is because if I look at the statistical analysis of people who, movements that put office attached to stuff, there is almost always abuse of that office. In
sure.
other words, if someone's prophetic, I'm the prophet.
Yes.
Sit down, be quiet,
Yeah.
listen to the prophet speaking,
Yeah.
listen to what I have, rather than operate in the prophetic. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Because if I had the office according to the Old Testament, you should stone me if I get wrong once,
For
right?
sure.
Or the apostolic, the apostle so-and-so, everybody take your jackets off, put it on the ground. His
sure.
shoes can't get dirty.
For
It's
sure.
like that normally when like movements immediately start ascribing, they ascribe stereotypes.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
apostle, highest honor, he can't ever be dirty. We got to take care of him. We got to carry his chair in the room. The prophet, that person, listen to them. They always right. If the prophet speak, you can't do anything about it. The evangelist, he allowed to just do whatever he wants.
He has no accountability.
Yeah, no accountability.
No staff meeting.
He has no pastor. No pastor.
He's just traveling.
No home church. Yeah, it's like, come on, y'all. Like,
He's a TikTok influencer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a TikTok guy, talks about everything, but has no leadership, has no mentor, has no pastor. So like,
sure.
I'm just always weird to say, hey guys, like we don't have to immediately office scribe stuff when
sure.
you can recognize what your gift is. And as I'm a teacher, I'm a preacher, but I know that one of my strongest gift that the Lord has given me is much more of an apostolic growing.
sure.
I want to see the kingdom of God
sure.
expand on earth. So I think that's where people have to be very cautious. But like for us, I don't know if you do, but we kind of use the Highlands motto where our growth track, we take every member through their
Spiritual
gift
gift
mix.
tracks,
Yeah. Do you guys do that for
We're
your
starting
new members?
to. We're doing that now.
Yeah. So for our people, when you join our church, we walk you through
For sure.
prophetic and evangelists and everything like that, and then we explain it to you
sure.
so that you don't walk out and be like, "Hey, Pastor Adam, I just took this gift and I'm like an apostle now, so
Yeah.
I need you guys to
Yeah.
make
Well,
we make sure it doesn't come that way."
There's a guy, he's like a groundbreaking ecclesiology author. His name is Alan Hirsch. Have you ever heard of Alan Hirsch?
I have.
He's
I've never read
he's,
any of
He's
stuff,
in that
but I've never
exponential
known.
world.
Okay.
But he had a breakthrough book where he, as more like a church historian, studied every revival starting from the book of Acts, like
Okay.
globally. And he calls it the MDNA Missional DNA, the 7 catalysts or the 7 ingredients that was there at every single like national revival. And one of them was the fivefold. He says the fivefold was fully embraced and the local church knew how to navigate all 5 gifts, right? The first one was like lordship of Christ. The second one was like, it was systems over institution, like decentralized leadership. And then the other one of them was fivefold ministry, right? So the evangelists would go into a town, people would get saved. The apostolic would come and plant the church. The shepherds and teachers would come and make disciples. And the prophets would come and address culture. And he said, he argues every church leadership, if you want to be healthy, right? Because if a church is led by an apostolic leader, the shadow side, you know what it's going to be? Hurt people.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because
he's going to plow over you.
Because the apostolic leader got a
no
vision.
time.
He's going to be like Paul. He'll be like, hey, Mark, You
Yeah.
bailed out on us last
Yeah.
time.
Get
You ain't
out.
coming with us
Get
this
out.
time, right? And
Yeah.
Barnabas is the shepherd, right? He's
Yeah.
like, no. We got to
I'll
care
take
for
him.
his
I'll
soul.
take him. Yeah.
So he says, what you want to have is like you want to have an elder team or a pastoral team or executive team or a board where the apostolic leader gets the vision, he sets the pace. But you got to check in with the shepherd, like, hey, how are our people doing,
Yeah.
right? But he says,
Yeah.
but if the shepherd is the senior pastor, you know what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
No souls are going to be saved. No conquering. No dominion. No growth, right? And if you know what's going to happen when a teacher is the senior pastor? A bunch of Pharisees.
Yeah.
Right. And what you know
Yeah.
what's going to happen when the senior pastor is a prophet? A bunch of cultural wars.
Yeah.
So he said, if you want to have a healthy expression of the full embodiment of a local church, have 5 leaders who do life together and they respect each other's gifts.
Yeah.
So for me, being apostolic, I've nurtured my shepherding, but I have to always lean in to my community pastor. I go like, hey, Jay, like, this is what I want to do. How do you think our people are going to take it? He's like, I don't know if they're going to like this, bro. It's too
Yeah.
fast. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, our home group leaders, they're tired. They're exhausted. We need to somehow learn how to care for them. All right. You know, so we got to create a system like that. And I even know Christian leaders who even take that language and they throw it into the business world too.
Yeah.
What's HR? HR is a shepherd.
Yeah.
What's the policy making? It's the teachers,
Yeah.
right? What's the evangelists? Your marketing team,
Yeah.
right? Who are the apostles? Is the ones who's creating the business plan, right? So having like a
3 years into your church, do you feel like what's your guys' strength as a church right now? What do you think you're kind of weakest at that you would love to see over the next couple of years build up at?
weakest is probably shepherding and discipleship. Weakest. I'm a discipler.
Yeah.
Personally, but I'm weak at creating a system for discipleship. I would say our weakest point right now is shepherding and discipleship. Our strongest is probably the apostolic and evangelist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he goes to our church. He's nodding his head.
Yeah.
He's like, no one's caring for my soul. he's like, Pastor, I need you to shepherd me more. I think that's where it is.
Yeah.
So our next hires need to be a lot more attention. So the reason why, one of the reasons why, so we had our 3rd year anniversary this past Sunday.
Yeah.
And we ordained our first 4 elders.
Dope.
We ordained our first 4 elders, and I would say all 4 of them are shepherds.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would say all 4 of them are shepherds.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking about them, they're all
That's great.
shepherds. One's apostolic. He's apostolic, but probably apostolic, and then the other 3 are shepherds.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's healthy to have, especially for me. And I told them, hey, like one of your roles is to let me be me, but speak up when I'm not tending to the needs of our people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So so don't stop me.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not your role. It's not to stop pastor from going.
Yeah.
But it is your role to like check me sometimes. To be like, hey, Will, we're neglecting our people, right? And I would say this too. I have an apostolic gift with a pastoral heart. And I think that's true of you too, right? The worst is an apostolic gift without a shepherd in your heart, right?
Yeah.
I have my staff always says, Will, you confuse me because your wiring and your values are so contrary. Like your wiring is to dominate and go, but your values is to slow down and care. Right? And that's maturity, right? And so I've had to grow in that second place.
Yeah.
You think that's true of our church? Like shepherding is probably...
He said,
it felt better.
Evandrew, you agree?
He's shepherding me right now. That's how he shepherds me.
He's giving him closure right now. He's giving you closure.
You know how I shepherd people?
Yeah.
You got to follow me because I can't sit down and meet with you.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
when it's a crisis and an emergency. But if the way I shepherd, you got to rock with me.
Yeah.
Because the way I'm gifted and called, I'm moving. I'm going. And if you're willing to jump in the car ride, we'll get discipled. We'll get relationship. So even with Andrew, anytime we hung out, I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to speak here. You down to come?
Yeah.
I texted him yesterday. I was like, you down to come? So I figured out how I do it.
Yeah.
Versus shepherds and teachers, I've learned they disciple through coffee, through like long meals.
Yeah.
For me, once a meal goes past 60 minutes, I'm like, all right, bro.
Yeah. What's going on? Yeah,
But I'm always,
yeah.
I'm that's a shadow side.
It's tough. Yeah.
That's a shadow
That's
side.
hard for me. When the worst thing someone can say to me is, let's get coffee. That's the worst thing you could say to me. It's like punishment, you know? Now, if someone handed me an itinerary and said, I want to get coffee with you and here are the subjects I want to talk with, I'm like, oh, great. I know where this is going. We can sandwich through these things. But if it's just like, there's been times I've got, yeah, what's up? We're having coffee. There's a man, I would just love to get to know you more.
Bro.
And I'm just like, I'll be like, I even struggle with knowing me. I'm not here.
Dude,
I don't want to tell you.
There's been times where like, you know, like people want to like meet me. So they'll like reach out.
Yeah.
From my thing is if you reach out 3 times, I'll meet with you.
Yeah.
And there,
You just gave people a hack.
And then like I hang. But like me too, so usually when people reach out to me, it's either they have problems that need to be solved or going through a crisis.
Yeah.
That I'll make time all the time.
Yeah.
The third one is like, I'll meet, just like you, I'm like, hey, what's up? How you doing? They're like, hey, P-Will, I just wanted to hang out. I go like, what?
Yeah. You want to what?
I was like, you wanted to just hang out for 2 hours? I know people listening, that might sound horrible, right? Yeah. And I understand that. And I'm acknowledging that's not necessarily the best thing, but I've also embraced that's just not who I am. And if that's who you're looking for, I can flex my muscles.
Well, and there are some people, you know, I'll tell you the church and the pastor that you could do that at.
Yes.
The church that's 50 to 100 people, because more than likely that that church hasn't grown, not because God hasn't graced it or whatever. It's because that pastor, his primary gift is shepherding.
Yes.
That's his number one gift.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to grow. He doesn't know how, which is fine.
Yeah.
You know, Will just spoke to that. Like, whatever your strength is, be your strength. Build a team of your weaknesses. So, you know, you can get that and that is 80% of churches in America. Yes. So if you want a shepherd that you can get one-on-one coffee dates, you can go to almost any corner on any block, and there's a church that's 50 to 100 that pastor would literally wag his tail like a golden retriever to go to coffee with you, because that's his personality.
That's a gift mix.
He's a shepherd
for sure.
And I know those guys. Like I know a lot of them, and they'll come to me and be like, "Hey, Adam, I'd love to get coffee with you," and I'll be like, "Pastor, I'd love to help you."
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different language.
For him,
language. He's like, Adam, I'm a shepherd. I want to get to know you more, Adam. And I'm like, I struggle with getting to know anyone. I want to. Hey, let's go accomplish something together. I'll happily do that.
Yeah, because I think the problem with a lot of Christians is they think unity is conformity. Right? To me, unity is everyone doing something different in the same direction. That's unity to me. Because because me being Asian American, there's a Confucius proverb that says the nail that sticks out gets hit. It's a part of our culture. So in Asian culture, if you preach in an Asian church, ain't no one clapping. Yeah. Ain't no one shouting back, because it's rude to do that, right? Everyone's going to dress very bland. Yeah. Right? Everyone's going to blend in because we're an oppressed people, right? so you're not supposed to stand out. But the American proverb is the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Correct.
So when I was breaking out of my immigrant church, going into the mainstream American culture, it was like a code switch for me. Because in Asian culture, for you to be loud and proud is arrogance, prideful, and you get shut down. The problem is I'm naturally apostolic. So growing up, even as I was driving here and Andrew were talking about this, a lot of my community didn't know what to do with me. Yeah. They thought I was non-submissive, disobedient, and a rebel, right? Yeah. And I got around these American, not that Asians are not American, but these white, black Latinos, they were like, he's the most humble guy we've ever met. Right. Oh, this is great. Like, y'all receiving me. Exactly. But it was the opposite. They were like...
He's just confident.
Yeah, they're like an opposite.
Just a confident guy.
They're like, speak up more.
Yeah.
They're like, post more.
Yeah.
We need you. We need your voice out there. I was like, this is so weird. Yeah. Like the first time I branched out to the mainstream Christian world, the first time we meet, they're like, how can we help? Yeah. I'm like, what? Y'all want to help me? In the past, they were like, how can we put you in your place? Yes. How can we keep you there, right? So it's like, just got to know how to navigate people's different gifts, because I can already feel people hear us talking right now. They're like, who are these guys to say they don't want to meet with someone? It's not that we don't want to. It's just a different gift mix. Right? Yeah. It's just a different wiring and a different gift to the body of Christ. So again, don't conform me, and I won't conform you to do what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say.
And I'm a selective introvert or a selective extrovert.
For sure,
So
you
like,
really are.
You know, like
Yeah.
for me, it's just you have to pull out of me what you want me to be excited about, and sitting down and talking about each other. That's not what gets me to come out of my shell, but that it doesn't at all. Like, and so, you know. And people think that because flattery tends to get access.
Sure.
And so what we tend to think is that if I just flatter someone and just say, hey, I really wanted to meet with you, or I really wanted time with you, that flattery is enough to be like, oh, that's amazing. You know, because some people, if that's the language they speak, they love that. Like, I know high capacity leaders that would love to sit down with people and have them, you know, ask a barrage of questions, you know, to them. They would love that, you know, because they love to talk about leadership or themselves, and they really love divulging themselves. I don't love divulging myself. I love accomplishing a goal, heading
sure.
towards something. So
Yeah.
you can get a meeting with me. It's just you have to tell me what the end result is.
sure.
And that'll get me motivated to be like, oh yeah, let's do that tomorrow.
For
But if
sure.
it's just like, man, I don't really know what I need to talk about. I just feel like if I sat with him, I'd get some clarity.
Yeah.
Then I'd be like, I don't really have time right now because I don't know how I can help you, or
For
I don't even
sure.
know how we can, you know, like the friends I have,
sure.
most of us have commonality in personality type.
Yes.
Which
Because
are-
you gravitate towards
Yeah.
people who are
Yeah.
built similarly.
But Ashley, dude, my wife, oh my gosh, not just because she's a woman, that's her gift. So Ashley, she'll go to coffee with you for hours and not even ask once what you need. You could tell your whole life story, and she'll just sit there and be like, and then what happened? And then what was your mom's name? And where's your mom from? Where, oh my gosh, like Ashley would do that for hours, and
Yeah.
I'll sit there and I'll just be like, where
You're
is this?
kicking her under
like,
the table. Like, we gotta go.
Is this going somewhere? Are they helping us? Are we helping them? Is there something happening out of this? You know,
No,
like,
I've experienced the gift side of you as your friend.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just sharing what I'm going through, and like 30 minutes later, you call me. You're like, hey, bro. And I didn't even know you were listening to what I was saying.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I was thinking about what you said. This is how I want to help you, bro. X, Y, and Z. Have you thought about this? Do you know this person? I reached out. I'm like, this is my dog.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
what was
yeah.
interesting, I told after our Young Guns retreat, because I'm usually the one always problem solving for other people.
yeah,
And I will do anything to help people. I will do anything to help people.
Yeah.
As long as I think I can help you. And I remember after the retreat, you called me and you were like, hey, bro, A, B, C, this, that, this. Have you thought about this? And we hung up. Called my wife. And I told her, that's my dog.
Yeah,
She was like, what do you mean? I was like, you know what Adam has just did for me? He did for me what I've been doing for people for my whole
Yeah.
professional career.
yeah,
And it's just so refreshing to know I have another homie that was willing to do something like that for me. Whatever,
Yeah.
if it happens or not, doesn't matter. The fact that he cared enough, because I know that's coming from care and love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I told my
Yeah.
wife, like, man, God is really bringing new friends. And even Jeff.
Yeah.
Right before you called me, Jeff called me.
Yeah.
Jeff was like, hey, dog, I was talking to this person and that person.
Yeah.
Since I was driving here, I called this person. I'm going to set up a meeting for you. And we're going to make this happen for you, dog. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, man, it feels good to be around homies who are
Yeah.
like wired that way. You know what I mean? Because to me, I know that's y'all loving me, right? Versus
Yeah.
y'all being like, hey man, you want to go have lunch?
Yeah.
I'll be like,
Or a text like, hey, just checking in on you. How you doing? And then, you know, you'd be like, I'm fine. Why? What's wrong? You know, like, is something wrong? Did Andrea call you? Am I in trouble?
You know the worst
like-
text messages for me when someone texts me, how you doing, bro?
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean how I'm doing? I'm doing all right. Oh, I don't got the time to tell you how I'm doing.
My wife and my pastor are the only two people know how I'm doing.
Yes, my
You know,
wife.
like,
I have a couple
therapist,
friends,
some
therapist, director.
It's like that. That's who it is.
Yeah, this
you know,
is so
that's
funny.
okay. Hey, tell me what your thought. We talked about it on when we did the 2-year anniversary episode of Beyond the Letter. I think 3 episodes ago. I brought this up, and then I was like, because we never talked about it on here, I don't think, but we talked about it offline, right? And I said, oh, maybe Will speak to it. And I think given that you brought up Korean culture and stuff like that, not that I'm praising this podcast space or anything like that. And so just correct me if I'm wrong from our conversation.
I mean, I already know
whatever
you're
we had.
racist, so it's
Yeah,
it's okay.
exactly. I'm a race stereotyper. I love stereotypes when it comes to races.
I know, but
It just brings me so much joy.
Bring it on.
Whenever
dog.
I tell a story, I always tell the ethnicity of a person. And people who are white get really uncomfortable with that. People who aren't kind of just go like,
It's
oh, okay,
funny.
like, oh, the person was Hispanic or the person was
Yeah,
black.
yeah,
When I
yeah,
tell
yeah.
stories with white people, they're like, why are you telling me they're Asian? I'm like,
because
it helps you like
Yeah.
it helps you put the story together. Like, did it not help you? I'm like, when you're a writer and you write a movie, you don't put guy could be any race.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, no, guy is Puerto Rican and da-da. They're like, oh, okay. But what I talked about was not this being the soul space, but being this podcast, and then like what has come with social media outreach and stuff like that is like, for you, this has felt like one of the first experiences, not the only, but one of the first experiences that you weren't just an Asian American.
Mm-hmm.
That like a lot of times, if you're at something or doing something, it's like people are saying like, it's because we want.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're picking you because of your ethnicity to diversify their lineup or whatever. Whereas like our podcast, like literally like no one is 100% white on our team. And so there's no need or desire for any of us to like consciously want to diversify. We're diverse as is. And so I think we talked about this offline. If we didn't, like nuanced it, but just that like how good it feels to be a part of something that isn't necessarily defined by your culture
Bro, I
or
could
like
talk
what
about
you're
this
trying
for-
to,
This is a whole episode. Well, let me start with this. I learned this a few years ago. I have a friend. She's a professor of Asian American studies, and she asked me, hey, have you ever heard of the triangular race theory? I was like, no, I never heard of that. She said, well, and she sent me this document or this PDF file. It's a triangle, and the vertical access point is hierarchy. On the horizontal access point is foreignness. So in America, when it comes to hierarchy, it's like white first, and then it's actually Asian, and then brown, and then black, right? On the foreign access, it's white and black are the same, and then brown, and then Asians are the most foreign.
Okay.
So that's why they call Asians the perpetual foreigner, right?
Okay.
So even when you watch the Olympics, you see an Asian person representing America. People are like, huh? Like they can't wrap their mind that this person's not Chinese, like this person's American. So for me, I've always felt like in certain rooms, like the perpetual foreigner, or I felt like I've always felt dismissed, sometimes just straight up disrespected and disregarded. So when I'll be in certain rooms, right, and a lot of times the rooms that I'm in are like leadership, high capacity rooms.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bring the race card, but I could feel they're like, oh, whose assistant is that? Right? Whose friend is that? Never do I feel they're like, oh, he's here because he's one of the guys who's leading a movement or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
On top of that, Asian Americans are only 6% of the U.S. population. So politicians don't tend to a 6% vote because it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah,
politicians are going for the black vote and the brown vote.
Yep.
The Asian vote ain't going to tip nothing. So they don't even care. So they don't even address you because it's about butts and budget, and, right, in the vote. So for myself, I have always felt either dismissed or used, right? Now, more recently, I think as I hate to say this, but I feel like I've proven myself. Right, I've proven myself that I'm not. I get emotional, dog. Like I'm not that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I got that chip on my shoulder, dog. It's like it's like I've put in the work.
Yeah.
Like, don't dismiss me or my people. Like I remember when I first started preaching at these national, even like global conferences, they would say to me like, "Who are you? Like, where you been at?" And then they're trying to be nice, but I'm like, I've been working for 15 years. In this immigrant community that y'all know nothing about. And I've been laboring and loving my people and leading my people. And now that for the first time Asians are cool, now you see me. That's what I feel immediately, and I have to repent. I'm like, I've been here, thanks for having me. But when I met around like you, Sammy, Jeff, when I'm with homies who grew up diverse, like it's they know I'm Asian, but they see me as them. Right? Because I grew up super diverse. In an army base, my friends are like a mixed podge of all types of mixed races, right? But then when I started getting around you, Sammy, the other homies, and I could tell when someone is, I always tell my friend, like, there's Asians who are just Asian. They only grew up with Asians.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's Asians who grew up diverse. And I could vibe with them much better. There's black folks who are like, you could just tell they grew up black. And then there's my black friends who grew up super diverse, right? So being here in Patriot or being around a lot of the newer communities I'm in now, it just feels like home, bro.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is how I grew up. Like, I grew up with a bunch of diverse friends. So when I'm around you, I could just tell you've been in so many different cultures.
Yeah.
So you see my culture, but not at the expense of like, he's not one of us.
Right.
You're just like, I grew up with people like Will. I'm one of my best friends with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And we had already hit it off, but then we really hit it off early on when it was like my best friend in college was Korean.
And he was my housemate.
And he was your housemate. And we were like,
No, I remember I was about to go
Korean
speak.
words and stuff like that.
I
And
was like,
you were
"What?"
like, and when we connected those dots, it was like, oh, we get each other.
Yes.
You know, we're not the same culture.
Yeah.
I don't get your culture at all sometimes.
For sure.
The MDiv culture and like that whole thing. Like, I don't get that, but I get it. It's like I get as a guy that's half Hispanic and half white who grew up in a black church, like that I get. I'm a racial chameleon, a cultural chameleon.
You're like a third culture experience. I always tell people, like, try to explain you. I'm like, so my boy Adam, is he black? I'm like, no. But he leads a black church that's now multi-ethnic. So is he half black? No.
Yeah.
So like
his wife's half black.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's a third culture experience.
Yeah. But this feeling, and Brad Lominick. So when I was in England, and you will know this feeling like anyone else, and anyone that is, an ethnicity, a minority ethnicity, will probably get what the feeling when I say what it is. So for context, for those who don't know, like our church. So my dad's a Mexican from East LA. My dad's half Spanish and half Mexican, but he's from East LA. My mom's white. My dad got saved in the black church. And then that black church had a split due to immoral behavior. So then my dad eventually planted a church called Abundant Living that it's 30 years old now, for the first probably 20 years was 99% black.
Yeah.
So our church is known as a black church.
For sure.
And my dad always wanted a multi-ethnic church, a church that looked like the mall. That's what he would always say. Our church needs to look like our city. If our city's all black, then we can have all black church. But if it's not, we need to be reaching our city, or else what are we doing?
For sure.
So that he would preach that a lot, and then he brought me on, and really my pivotal moments were helping make the church more multi-ethnic. Whereas today, it would probably be, it's still majority. Well, our culture is African-American for sure, and I'm proud of that. Yeah. So you listen to our music, you listen to our style of teaching and preaching, you listen to watch a lot of our structures is very historic black church with a modern twist. But you look at the congregation, very, very multi-ethnic now. You'll see a lot of African-American, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Polynesian. We got a lot of Asians now coming.
A lot of Asians coming, baby.
So it is very multi-ethnic, right?
For sure.
And then I got friends, like one of my best friends up in the north, Coloma, who's like, he's part of the African-American Methodist church, where like his church is actually diverse, but like his leadership, all the pastors in his denomination, all black. Then we got our friends like Abe Camacho, who you would say is like, he's a Latino pastor, right?
I mean, he's from Tijuana.
Yeah, he's from Tijuana.
The brother's from there, yeah.
His church is 99% Hispanic, right?
I don't know.
It is, yeah. Well, you spoke there before, right?
No, I visited.
Oh, you visited, but it is. It's
It looked brown.
Yeah. It's Hispanic, yeah. And so you have people like Abe, and then you have Sammy's other friend Abe in Houston. In other words, like there are people in the Latino church, right?
Sure.
Like Abe and others, which I'm an alien to.
Yeah.
I'm not. I when I get around Latino pastors who are in the Latino world, it's foreign to me.
Yeah.
I much more assimilate into the Kojic,
For sure.
black church culture, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's just some context, because then, when someone tries to flatter you and then it just hits everywhere wrong, it's like, so we were in England, and then someone who I've known, and I'll tell you offline who it was, but someone I've known a very long time, who's older gentleman, he introduces me to someone, and he says, "This is Adam Mesa of Patria Church." And he goes, and he is one of the leading voices in the Latino church in America. And his Hispanic church is doing amazing things in Los Angeles. And I was just like, yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
It was just like to be completely defined.
Yeah.
Now, if I was a leading voice in this, I'd wear that.
For sure.
I'd say that about Abe, who was recently on a podcast.
For sure.
You don't say that about Adam Mesa.
Yeah,
Do not put me in the Latino, because all the Latinos are gonna be like, that dude don't even speak Spanish. He ain't no leader in our Latino. I'm respected in the Latino church. My dad is very respected in the Latino churches, but he nor I are anywhere in the category. We are much more categorized in the black, more people in the black church know who we are than people in the Latino church. So it was just immediately to be like, I'm Mexican.
You're just like dismissed to your. Yeah.
Because what he knows about me is he knows we're doing something significant.
Yeah.
He knows we're doing something that's reaching a lot of people, and so then in his head, he immediately goes, well, if that's the case and he's Mexican,
for sure,
then everything he's doing is with Mexicans.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
oh yeah, bro.
Dang.
I feel that.
And so I told Brad, so the rest of the week in England, he'd be like, Adam, as a leader in the Latino church, what would you? We would just laugh because Brad knows that for all of us, that's a pet peeve of ours, just to limit us into our reach being. Because I'm like, you would never say that with a white person. You never pull a white person, be like, this person is a white church leader. No, he's allowed to have a multi-ethnic church.
Yeah.
But if you're black, you have to have a black church. If you're Korean, you have to have a Korean church.
Sure.
If you're Hispanic, you have to have a Hispanic church.
For sure.
To be a minority and to have a multi-ethnic church, though
that's
that is
rare.
a statistical anomaly, but
sure.
still, to just immediately categorize as someone there, I just was like, dang. Yeah. But I have a huge amount of respect, and I know where he comes from is a place of care.
Yeah.
And I know if he came to our church, he'd feel bad that he put me in that category, but it still stings when that happens.
For sure. No, me too. Like it's a tension, because I'm always reminding myself, like 99% of the people who've said like prejudice, stereotypical racist comments to me, they didn't mean it that way. 99% of them. It's just it's ignorance, it's distance, it's a foreignness. So I'm always it's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at the same time, I'm like, should I say something? Should I speak up?
Yeah.
Should I not? So it's been an interesting balance for me, right? Because I've had time, especially 2020, when everybody was like, you know what I mean? Like everything. So I remember just telling myself, okay, they didn't mean it that way. They just didn't know. They were trying to flatter me, but they just did it the wrong way.
Or I've been in a situation where I was with Dave Gibbons, and we were with a pastor's leaders thing, and there was about it was a diverse group. It was about 15 of us, and 5 of them were black pastors from black churches, and the black community somehow got brought up in church and just in general. And at one point, Dave looks over and was like, "Hey, Adam, what's your thoughts on it?" And I start speaking it, and then one of a guy goes, "Why is he talking? He has no space.
For sure.
You're not black. You have no space."
For sure.
And he just immediately shuts me down. He's like, "You have nothing
for sure
to add to this conversation. Leave it. Leave it to the black people to talk about it."
Yeah.
And then not Dave, someone else actually spoke for me and was just like, "Hey, if you had any idea who you were talking to,
for sure,
he probably has one of the largest black churches in America
in this room.
And put all your guys' churches together. And he has more African Americans in his church than all 5 of you.
Yeah.
And he was like, and whoever, I can't remember who spoke up for me, and they were just like, I'm not saying you have to listen to Adam, but what I am saying is that's his culture.
Yeah.
That's what he's grown up on. His family, as Hispanics, have given their life to the work of the black community, in a lot of respects, not fully, but like in a lot of respects, we have been okay with being ostracized for not being Hispanic and also not being African American enough that we make fun of it. On the pulpit, I say, as an African American man, I say that stuff all the time.
I know, you always say that.
To add humor, but also be like, I'm okay with not being, and now that our church is extremely multi-ethnic, we have to do it a lot less. But for many years, a lot of times it felt like I was we had to apologize for not giving 100% of our energy to the Latino church.
Sure.
While also trying to prove to people outside that this is what I grew up in.
Because you're an anomaly, bro. It's just it's a category that defies categories, right?
Yeah.
It's a life experience and a ministry expression that is foreign to 99% of the world, you know?
Yeah.
So people are going to have a hard time. I was just listening to, because
Yeah.
my algorithm right now is like Diddy and Vlad TV
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Breakfast
yeah.
Club. And then all of a sudden I came upon like all the clips of like hip hop artists who are like The Game or 50 are like, M is one of the best rappers alive. And then all the other, they're like, he can't be because he ain't a part of us. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So there's like a
yes.
cultural tension
Yeah,
in that, right?
yeah.
So what's interesting for me, one of my pain point might be a strong language, but yeah, one of my pain points is like I was not accepted by my own community, right? So like I'm like I hear this is, I mean, I've never talked about this publicly ever, even on the pulpit, but it's a podcast. So like even on the drive here,
Yeah.
Andrew was telling me, so-and-so pastor still talking trash about you. Don't even know who they are, right? And I know who he's talking about, but like,
Yeah.
and they're always Korean American pastors. I have literally in my 16
And give
years.
people context, because what you've done as a Korean American, I guess, is opposite to what you normally do as a Korean American, right? And how you done church.
Well, I've been in it for 16 years now. That's the crazy
Yeah.
part, right? I became a full-time youth pastor when I was 18. So it's 16 years now. So for me, again, Korean culture, the nails that sticks out gets hit. And there's a lot of like, you got to join our thing, right? And you got to climb the ladder. The problem with me was I wasn't a church kid.
That you can't be. It's almost frowned upon as a pastor to be entrepreneurial.
It's very-
is that a way? Because I think a church planner is
Especially-
entrepreneur. Like a church planner is like, bro, I'm going to do a movie theater,
Yeah,
and
it's-
then
Yeah.
the other Korean church like, well, you should be an assistant pastor until you're
Yeah.
45, and then maybe
Yes.
you'll get a shot
Yes.
at being a senior pastor one
Yes.
day. Yeah.
It's
Which is kind of how
especially-
like the Kojic church is too.
Yeah,
you know,
any
in some
high
ways.
high ecclesiology, like high culture, you know. But like for me, and one is I was 18, and that's unheard at that time. That was like, who's an 18-year-old youth pastor, right? And then also another.
Because normally you're 26 with an MDiv being a youth pastor, right?
An assistant youth pastor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things have changed now, but like you're an intern with the MDiv, right? After 5 years of your MDiv, then you could be ordained, right?
After a master's.
Yeah. So for me, one of my pain points has been, and still sometimes is probably every month, 2 to 3 times, someone tells me so-and-so pastor is talking trash about you. It's always Korean. Not once in my 16 years I've ever heard someone tell me a non-Korean pastor is talking trash about me. Never once. Never once. Not even once in my 16 years of being in ministry.
Let's try to change that.
Yeah, it'll change. I'm on Beyond the Letter, so it's changing. But and
And you're on Tim Ross's podcast where he clips your only one thing.
I was like, yo, Tim, I got the one clip. Well, I smoke every day.
The one thing you said in 2 hours.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know.
But it's just, I don't know. I mean, I could have assumptions of why. I think one is I just didn't follow any system. Because I was so radically saved, no wineskin
Yeah.
could take the wine that was pouring out of my life. So I was just starting. I was starting high school campus ministries. I was doing outreaches on high school campuses, public high school campuses.
And it's like, hey, who gave you permission?
Who
to
gave
do that?
permission? I was like, nobody. Like, do I need permission? I didn't know. So if I knew I needed permission, I would have asked.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed permission. So even when I planted Beloved, I was in many meetings of senior pastors like, you can't do this. I'm like, why? They're like, well, because you're not allowed to do this. You got this X, Y, and Z. You can't take this person. You can't. I was like, I'm not taking nobody. I asked one person that's one of my disciples to rock with me, and that's going to cause all this drama, and I still hear it all the time.
Yeah.
That's my pain point, bro. And then another
Which
part.
for people, for other contexts, like you go to almost any other culture and like you tell your pastor, hey, I want to plant, 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, go
Let's
for
roll.
it. Here's this organization. We'll give you seed. One
of my pain points
Yeah.
was when one of the churches found out that I was planning a church, they were very upset, right? And I was a part of that church for a while. And I didn't, they were just going off on me. And what I wanted to say was, you know what you should do, bro? You should bring me back on stage, have me preach, collect an offering for me.
Yeah.
Tell our congregation he's one of ours.
Yeah.
And we believe in him, and we're sending out anyone who wants to rock with him, because it's about kingdom multiplication.
Yeah.
Right? That's not what I said,
Right.
but that's what I wanted to say, because that's just what I felt.
And that's what's common, and that's what in a
and that's
healthy
when I
context,
started
that's what
grieving.
should happen.
Because when I'm talking
you know?
to my like non-Asian friends, They're like, oh yeah, my pastor found out I was planning a church. They said, we're going to cover your salary for the first 3 years.
Yeah, right.
Hey, take as many people as you want.
Yeah,
we'll have you come on stage, recruit people. We'll have a separate meeting for you to vision cast. So I'm hearing this, but experiencing that.
Yeah.
And so I've had to like navigate that world. And at the same time, I have this thing where I want to like represent my people well. So like I always get hit up like, hey, Will, like, who are the Asian leaders, because I'm always telling my wife, like, I can't be the only Asian speaker because that's what Francis did.
Yes.
That's what Dave did.
Yeah.
That didn't change anything for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm always telling Andrea, like, I need at least 2 to 3, maybe if not 10 of us to move together at the way that God's moving so that we can shift culture, represent our culture, and bring the kingdom expression that's unique to our culture that's going to add value to the entire body of Christ. And I feel like Asian culture...
Well, and if you look at it, Asian culture right now in America outside of the church context is literally going rampant.
It is.
My 6-year-old, Matthias, first grade, 90% of the stuff he follows, ingests, is Asian.
It's crazy.
It's anime, it's Korean, it's Japanese. Like
it's crazy.
All of our malls today, like I'm
crazy.
literally seeing at our local mall, like every new store that comes is an Asian owned store. It's like an anime store, it's a pop store, it's just like boba spots on every corner right now, and even non-Asian majority matcha in every restaurant. It's just like, so yeah, it's like that's all Asian.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But you're right.
But the church
it's like,
is 50 years behind,
you know,
always. It's 50 years behind, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting...
The music, BTS,
everything,
and K-pop, and everything.
The Netflix
all
top
our
10
teenage
shows.
girls are listening to,
Strange.
all K-pop.
Strange.
There's all these, you seen those things on TikTok? All these kids that meet up in local malls and they all memorize the Korean dance moves, and they're like black, white,
Dog,
like they're all
every time
it's crazy.
Every time
I'm
I
Asian
speak,
now.
no, every time you identify.
Yeah, I identify.
I co-sign this.
That's my
every time I guest speak at a youth convention, right? They come up to me afterwards. They're like, "Hey, do you know?" And they'll like drop like a K-pop crew. They will cite the entire song to me in Korean, and they can't speak Korean. I don't even know who they're talking about, but they're like, "Do you know Blackpink?" And like, it's like a Latino dude or like a Latino girl or like a black dude. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Because when I was coming up, it's like we had Jackie Chan, bro. That's all we had, and Jet Li. And then William Hung came out and came on freaking American Idol.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But things are changing in a good way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I that's why like friendships like you. Yeah, man. I remember I have a few pivotal moments in my journey as an Asian American where I felt respected by my peers that I didn't feel for the first 10 years. One was from you, one was from Grant, another was Sammy. I remember one time I did an event. I was trying to do an event with circuit riders.
Yeah.
For like 10 years.
Wow.
Because we were doing similar things.
Yeah.
And I'm not pulling the race card, but it just never worked. And I felt like it might be because we're Asian, right?
Yeah.
And the first time me and Sammy did a collab night, because you could tell power dynamics by the way they talk to you and treat you, right? You could tell when someone sees you with respect versus if someone sees you to use your community or to think they're better than you. And I remember when we were co-creating that night, he had full trust in me, and we were just rocking. And then with Grant too, Grant Skelton, my boy, he was the guy. Robert Clinton talks about this. He talks about there's a spiritual gift of networking and sponsorship. Yeah. And Apostle Paul was outcasted in the Apostolic Council until Barnabas co-signed his name.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Barnabas co-signed his name that it elevated him to where God was calling him to go. That was Grant for me. Because before Grant, I was just doing my own thing. But Grant was like, a lot of people would say, before Grant, they would say, oh, he's a top leading Asian American pastor. I remember when Ark DM'd Grant and said, who is that guy? And Grant, he screenshot to me, he's like, he's a top 5 millennial pastor I know. That was the first time someone didn't use an adjective before millennial for me. It was millennial leader. It was an Asian leader, right? Yeah. And ever since then, like, I'm like, wow, right? And so it's just, it's an interesting journey. But there's also nothing wrong if you are only serving your community, right? If you're black, serving the black church, Latino, Asian, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's about calling. I feel called to reach all people.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
also have a special heart for
Yeah.
my people.
Right.
So it's building the bridge for me
Yeah.
as I lead and
Yeah.
live my life. You know.
Yeah, if it's true to what you're doing and the adjective explains exactly
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
doing, but it's like if someone was one of the best electricians in America and they happen to be black, you wouldn't be like, this is one of the best black electricians in America.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
like, that's one of the best electricians.
Yeah.
Now, if he had an electrical company that is fully black employed, fully black owned, and their heart is like, hey, we help teach young black men how to be electricians. So to define that and say, man, he got one of the leading black where he's teaching young black men how to be electric. Okay, all day. That is a perfect explanation. And so I think, there is a difference between the two, and really only the heart of the person can define that. But it's not hard to discover whether this person is just called or impacting one culture, one ethnic, or they're actually reaching all. Like Francis Chan reaches everybody.
Yeah.
You're not going to say he's a leading Asian voice, but
he's a leading white voice.
many people,
I'm kidding.
he's like,
Francis
top 5 white boys, But like some people would still say that. Some people would assume if Francis Chan has a church gathering, everyone in the room's Asian.
Yeah, they
even
would
though it's
assume.
not.
Yeah,
But
probably
they
less
would
than
put
ever.
him in that category because of that. And
For
and I
sure.
think just being conscious of that is huge, and being aware. And for me, it's like, man, I would love to be defined in the Latino movement, but I have enough Latino friends that they'd be like, hey, Adam's dope.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's not in the Latino
He's
church.
one of us, but he's not like us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He like gets a pass
For sure.
but like we want to claim him because we get to,
Hey, just
it's like,
put a Mexican flag in your bio.
Exactly.
You'll get way more speaking engagement
I'm
stars.
gonna start.
Just put it in your bio, dog. You're
Yeah.
gonna start traveling the world.
Because like believe it or not, like I've spoken in more black churches than I have Hispanic, because everyone people who know us know they're not Hispanic churches are not having Adam coming in and hopefully with the advent of AI and technology, though, I could be Mexican by the end of next year, because then my lips move with it. No one would know I don't speak Spanish.
This is fun,
bro,
dude. This
this
is
was a great
combo.
episode. I wanted to have it because we actually talked about it at our 2-year anniversary
did.
3 episodes ago.
It was good. You
And,
excavated stuff out of me.
I was like, I want to talk to Will. And I told them, let's not talk about it on the podcast. I said, I was like, because I want to talk to Will about this, because we've talked, and we all talk about this if we're minorities. It's kind of something we all joke around a lot, but being able to air it out on this, because I know there's other people sitting in other platforms that they're in, like, yeah, you know what, right? You're right. I don't want to be just defined as blank. I want to do something more broader, So I think a lot of people can relate to that. We have a lot of other pastors that listen to us, so hopefully that'll help. All right, y'all. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks for joining Beyond the Letter with Adam today and Will today. I don't think we even did an introduction. We got Mauricio behind there. Is that Mauricio? Yeah, we got Mauricio in the house, and Nancy and Andrew. I change Andy's name every episode now.
Oh man!
All right, y'all. Peace.